Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia Crasco, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. If you saw this podcast title and you thought, I'm going to give this a listen. But here's another thing. If you've ever thought, why does this feel harder than it should during the holidays? This episode is for you. As stepmoms, the pressure to make it work can feel overwhelming, but you don't have to do it all. So in this episode, let's talk about realistic ways to manage these challenges while keeping your sanity and maybe even just a tiny little bit of your holiday cheer. Here are episode takeaways. How to manage co-parenting dynamics during the holidays, tips for letting go of perfection and comparison, protecting your mental health while juggling family expectations, and setting boundaries to create a holiday season that works for you. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Stepmom Side podcast. I'm your host, Alicia, and today we're diving into the nitty-gritty of navigating holiday stress as a stepmom. But here's the twist with this one. Everything I'm about to share comes directly from stepmoms. So on Instagram, I have a private broadcast channel called Stepmom Support, and I ask them, what are you stressing about the most for the holidays? Examples like last minute schedule changes, competition with the other house, awkward conversations, celebrations, etc. And these are things that they're stressing about, and it's coming directly from them. So these aren't just my stories, they're our stories. The stressors we talk about are challenges stepmoms just like you are facing right now. And chances are you'll probably relate to a few of them. But here's the thing. The holidays aren't exactly Hallmark movie material when you're dealing with custody schedules, co-parenting chaos, and in-laws who still wish you weren't part of the family or part of the picture. I mean, am I right? The first thing we're going to talk about is the stepmom said, new schedule and a new state. Save me. One of the most common stressors I hear from stepmoms is navigating a brand new holiday schedule. And even if you've never moved, it's really hard to navigate. But if you've moved to another state or the custody agreement has shifted, it can feel like you're trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. So if this is familiar to you, like you've moved states, I just want you to know you're not alone, and there are always things that are going to happen, and there are ways to manage this without pulling your hair out. And here's the thing. If you've moved to a different state and your stepkids are still in the previous state or province, if you are international, if you move from one province to another and now you are long distance, there are always going to be things that go sideways at holiday exchanges. And, or, if you're doing FaceTime calls or video chat calls, like there's always going to be things that go sideways. Even if you live next door, there's things that are going to go sideways, right? So give yourself a little bit of grace to navigate this. Everyone's figuring out this massive change for the first time, but it still sucks. It's still something that you're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, what do we do? Give yourself a little bit of grace. Take a lot of the pressure off of you to like try to figure everything out. You don't need to be the hero for anything else, for everyone else. Okay, so the next one is about planning. And the stepmom said, the planning. That's how I read it. The holidays go by so fast already, and trying to fit in activities, seasonal pictures, all of the things in a limited schedule in a short period. I try to go with the flow, but then the comparison kicks in and it's not fun in my head. Another big theme I hear, like the frustration with planning. And the truth is, the mental load of holiday planning often falls on us, the stepmoms. And let me just say, it's okay for you to let go of perfection and embrace a simpler, more sustainable approach. So that might mean that you guys aren't doing all of the activities, that you guys aren't doing all of like the Instagram picture-worthy festivals or events or things of the sort. It's okay for you not to do all of those things. And here's what I want to encourage you to try. Find things that are going to be best for everyone, even if it means that something that's like really important to you like falls to the wayside. Again, you don't have to do it all of the time, but find things that are going to be the least stressful, Because if you are already like, oh my gosh, we have all of these things and all of these, we need to start letting some of these things go. We don't need to do all of the activities. We don't need to do all of the events. Because at the end of the day, if you do all of those things, somebody is going to end up super cranky. Somebody's going to end up hangry. And then there's going to be the irritable bitch. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be you. Speaking from experience, no shame. So maybe this year, just try embracing a simpler, like I said earlier, more sustainable approach, plan. Like try to offload some things. Like, okay, we don't need to do all of the things this year. To be 100% honest with you, this year for Christmas, we aren't getting pictures with Santa until December 23rd, 21st, 21st. We're not getting pictures until December 21st, 4 days before Christmas, because my stepson's coming back. And every year we've gone to get pictures with him since my daughter was a baby. And so I messaged him. He's 21 this year. And I'm like, hey, Santa pictures when you get back. And he was like, hell yeah, count me in. Cool. That's not something that I'm going to stress out about. It's a day that my daughter doesn't have school. I'm like, hey man, here's the date, here's the time. We're going to do it. I don't have a ton of activity things planned for us around the holidays because I don't like it. It makes me cranky. It makes me like, we need to get here, we need to go there, we need to, no, we're not doing all of the things. We're not, I'll just tell you right now, we're not doing all of the things. So next thing, let's talk about flexibility or the lack of it. And this one is really hard for so many stepmoms I coach too. One stepmom in the broadcast channel had said, the mom is being unaccommodating with her time, but expects us to bend ours. She is very confrontational, and the older sister isn't helping with the whole thing. It's like having two moms. And I'll tell you this, if you've got an older sibling that's acting like a second mom, ugh, it's like double the drama, right? And if this is you, if this resonates with you, like stick with me. We're going to talk boundaries here soon. But here's the thing. If you don't want to bend your time, don't bend your time. If you want to bend your time, bend your time. If she is not flexible with her time, it almost makes it easier because you know that she's not flexible with her time. So you never expect her to like bend or break, if you will, and like give you the extra time. Now, if you're getting caught in the like, well, okay, we're not going to bend our time because she's not bending her time. I don't want you to get caught in that trap either, because I've heard this recently from three stepmoms that I'm coaching, and they say, I live for the days that my stepkids aren't here, or I live for like the weekends to be free, or I really look forward to the time that they're not here. And I'll tell you, me too, girlfriend. Like when my stepkids were still in the house, I was like, oh, there were times, 100%, there were absolutely times that I could not wait for them to go back to their mom's house. I could not wait for it to just be my husband and we could just be, like literally just be. And for me, it was like just to be off, like, and not have to be on the entire time or not have to wonder about all of the things. You already know. So if she doesn't want to be flexible, she's not going to be flexible. If you guys want to be flexible, be flexible. If you don't want to be flexible, don't be flexible. But more than anything, having said that now, like more than anything, think about your stepkids. What is going to be best for them? If you guys already have plans, though, you guys already have plans. So stick with your plans. Don't just not do them because your stepkids want to do some random thing over at their house, because you guys are important too. Know that you guys are important too. So the next one that we're going to talk about is the comparison game in gifts. So the stepmom writes, the comparison game in gifts. I guess it's considered competition, but it's getting old when the stepkids are older. Oh my gosh, yeah. I just want you to know, like, it is really frustrating. It is a lot. It's exhausting, especially now that the stepkids are older and there's always this unspoken pressure to outdo the other household. And it probably makes you dread shopping every single year. This one is all about mindset. Let's dig into why this happens and when to step off the hamster wheel of comparison. Get off the hamster wheel of comparison like sooner rather than later. This is something that I used to be like, oh my gosh, I wonder what my stepkids' mom was going to get them. Like, what if we get the same thing? One year, actually, we did get the same thing. We had Christmas first that year. And so I'd gotten my stepdaughter this sweater, and she showed up to her mom's house wearing it. And her mom was like, what the hell? Not really, but like she was like, where'd you get that from? And my stepdaughter was like, oh, Alicia got it for me. And she was like, oh. So there have been times where I'm like, hey, what are you getting them? I don't want to like double get literally for like, because this has happened before. But we've also gone in on gifts as well. one year my stepson wanted a really expensive snowboard, and so we split that. And we've been like, okay, do you want to do ski lift tickets? Like, do you want to split those? Or like chairlift tickets. But yeah, don't get caught up in like what are they getting from their mom? What are they getting from the other house? What are they getting from their grandparents or whatever? But typically this comes from like their mom and like what she's getting or what she's doing. Um, because here's the thing, she's their mom. She's always going to be their mom. But you, my friend, you are the only one that gets to be the stepmom. And to kind of like set yourself apart, and I have absolutely done this a few weeks before Christmas. Like sometimes I'll just give my subkids gifts because it takes out all of the overwhelm of all of the gifts like at Christmas or around Christmas time. You can do that too. Like give yourself permission to be like, you know what? I'm just going to give my subkid this gift early or get them something small. Like we have gotten to the point where we travel like over New Year's or around that time. And we started this, I don't even remember how long ago, like 10 years ago, probably. Oh my gosh, yeah, I think it was like 10 years ago. That's so crazy. 10 or 11 years ago, we started just traveling over the new year. Actually, it was at least 11 years ago. We started traveling over the new year. And so then Christmas gifts like weren't these massive things because we went on vacation. And so it also kind of took away that we have to get them something big. Because if you've got younger stepkids, you could buy them a million things for $100 if you've got young stepkids. But then they start getting into their teen years and they want like the latest phone or they want a laptop or they want big ticket items and $100 doesn't go very far. Or their clothes, like $100 does not go very far. But if you've got young stepkids, like $100 can go pretty far. But don't get caught into like the comparison part of it. Um, okay, so this one is a little bit touchy. This stepmom says, having my stepkid around my kids, they typically don't see each other much. And my stepkid is absolutely awful to them. She, so a stepdaughter, used to tell them to go and unalive themselves. Like her dad, my partner, doesn't handle my stepdaughter at all. This one is really, really hard. And I do hear from stepmoms that I coach stories about their stepkids and their kids not getting along, and then add in like their partner not stepping up to address the issues. And first of all, I just want to say to the stepmom, because I've messaged her quite a bit, like, I see you, I hear you, we've talked a lot about this, but you are not imagining how hard this is. And it's okay to draw a line in the sand to protect your kids because it's important to advocate for them while keeping your household dynamics as balanced as possible. If your stepdaughter is saying things like that to your kids, I absolutely, if I was you, would step in and say something, not minding that it's going to cause World War III or it's going to cause like a massive blow up. I'm happy to, literally happy to deal with the outcome of it because my stepkids don't talk to my daughter like this, but if they did, I would 100% step in and say something because here's something that I've experienced, but also a lot of stepmoms I coach have experienced. When they say to their partner, hey, go and address this situation, their partner will go and address the situation. But 99% of the time, the problem, the situation is not addressed how the stepmom would address it. Actually, 100% of the time, it's never addressed how the stepmom would address it. Not every single thing is covered, and the problem still keeps happening. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but the main thing is this: your partner and you are very different people. The way that your partner is going to address something is going to be very different than how you address something. And how you address something is going to be very different than how your partner would address it. Not that it's bad, it's just, it's different. And so when something like this happens to this caliber, I would 100% step in. But there's this balance of like, oh, am I overstepping with my stepkids? At that point, I don't care that I'm overstepping because now my kids' safety is in danger or is in question, and I'm not okay with it. I would 100% go in and say something, do something about it, and then deal with the fallout. That's how I would handle it. There are ways to go about it without it potentially having such a massive blow up, but having clear expectations prior to this holiday get together, since you said that your stepkids aren't always around them that much, or yeah, your kids that much, having the communication and having the communication with your partner and just, hey, here are my expectations. Here are some foreseeable issues that I see happening. What can we do now to mitigate that or to walk through how we're going to handle that and kind of do like a dry run of what it's going to happen. And I can tell you that your partner might be like, oh, that's going to be different this year, this, that. And here's the thing, there is a reason why in coaching, I work with stepmoms on practicing what you're going to do when situations arise. Because when that situation arises, a lot of times you, your partner, everyone else is frozen about what to do, or they're like, I don't know what to do, or they feel weird about making things weird because it's a holiday and it's supposed to be great and all of the things. But practice what's going to happen because you know what's going to happen or you know some variation of it's going to happen. But also, if for whatever reason something comes up, give yourself the permission to excuse yourself from the situation, you and your kids. I have a podcast episode about self-care during the holidays. It's called Holiday Survival Guide for Stepmoms, Self-Care Strategies That Actually Work. It's episode number 70. I will link that in the podcast. I mean, in the show notes. But yeah, there's no reason for you to stick around if it's like making you crazy. Like, don't stay in that situation. Like, you guys can get out of it. Another thing to note, there's a very good chance that your partner feels caught in the middle, like caught in the middle between their kid or kids, you and your kids. And there's just a bunch of things that are going on, and they're like, I don't know what to do. So they just freeze and they do nothing because it's a lot. There's so much to see and do. And I don't I don't know who I'm going to appease or I don't know what to do. And so I also have a podcast episode on this. It's podcast episode number 60. It's called Caught in the Middle: The Truth About Dad Guilt in Step Families. Go listen to that one. Again, it's called Caught in the Middle: The Truth About Dad Guilt in Step Families. I'm going to go ahead and link this one as well because you need to listen to it. But give everyone a little bit of grace to navigate this, especially if it's new and you guys are, not together that often. Find activities to do outside of your house, your apartment, wherever, your hotel, whatever it is. Find things to do together outside of the situation. I find that when you are locked up inside, maybe like the weather sucks and it's not that great. When you're locked up inside, it feels almost like a turf war of like who's getting more attention. There's so many dynamics that play when it comes to putting kids and step kids together. It's a lot. Speaking of so many dynamics at play, the next thing we're going to talk about is the outsider effect with your in-laws. So this stepmom says, I struggle with my in-laws wishing our family wasn't broken and that the mom was there inside of me. They're treating me like an outsider. Um, so many people have told me that they feel like an outsider in their own family, especially during the holidays. And it's exhausting, it's painful, but also know that your emotions are valid. The holidays have a good way of shining a spotlight on these dynamics. But let's talk about strategies we're going to use to protect your peace and stay grounded. Because if I'm being 100% honest with you, I like my in-laws. Our relationship has ebbed and flowed over the years, and now we're like in a really, really good space. We have been for like the last almost 5.5, 6 years. But if I'm 100% honest with you, I would venture to say that my mother-in-law would much rather have the ex at a holiday gathering than me. Full stop. I know that. I'm okay with it. Because here's the thing, I use humor to like get through a lot of things. And so I'm like, you know what? I know that she would rather have her, but guess what? She is stuck with me. And so then it becomes like this, I'm what you're stuck with. I'm what you get. I am your consolation prize. And to me, I kind of find it funny. It's not something that I typically think about, but when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, I would venture to say that my mother-in-law specifically would say that. When you go to these family events, and if you are being treated like the outsider, there's a lot of emotions that come up and like the biggest thing is like the insecurity or like the inferiority complex, and obviously the outsider syndrome. But here's the thing. You are the outsider. And I know that sucks to hear, and I know that's really hurtful to hear. I felt the exact same way. Know this. If you went to, or if I went to an event at your partner's family's side of the, or family's, if your partner's side of the family, there we go. I'm like, wait, what is happening? If I went to an event at your partner's side of the family's, somebody's house, they're probably going to treat me the exact same way. It has nothing to do with you. It's got everything to do with like a reflection of like their emotions or their struggles, their loyalty binds to whoever. This isn't about you. It's about that other person. How they treat you speaks a lot about them. And honestly, if you're going to an event or a holiday gathering or whatever at somebody's house on your partner's side that maybe is still friends with the ex, you don't have to spend your whole entire time talking to them. There are other people that you can talk to. There are other things that you can be doing. Go do them. Don't stay stuck talking to that person because in your head it's going to be like, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if? And um in case you're curious, because this is a really hard thing to navigate, I have 10 tips to get through the holidays for stepmoms. And it's 10 tips that I use even now. So if you want it, it's a free resource. I'm going to link it in the show notes. If you're like, oh my gosh, I want to go to it right now, go to aliciacrasco.com/holiday. And it's 10 tips to get you through the holidays because the holiday seasons, man, they can be so freaking hard. And I'm 13 years in, and there are still times that I'm like, seriously? Like, we're still dealing with this? Are you out of your mind? Like, what in the hell is happening? Like, how are we still here? What is going on? But I no longer word vomit all of those things. I no longer like pull my husband into my spiral. Sometimes I'll just tell him, like, I'm having a really hard time. I'm struggling with this. And his first words are, how can I support you? I'm really sorry that this is happening or that happened. How can I support you? Because support that I need looks very different than what he might need. And same thing though, if he's struggling with something, that those are the first words that I say, like, how I'm so sorry that this is happening. How can I support you? Because how I think he needs to be supported might be very, very different than what he needs. So get these tips before you head into this holiday season. aliciacrasco.com/holiday to get the 10 tips to help you get through the holiday season. Yes, I've repeated it like 100 times because I want you to remember. aliciacrasco.com/holiday to get these tips. So there you have it. Real holiday stressors coming from stepmoms that are inside my broadcast channel, stepmom side support or stepmom support. If you go to my Instagram profile, like you can see it on there. And whether you're dealing with new schedules, sibling tensions, or feeling like an outsider, like I hope that you got something today that resonates with you and a few little pieces of advice, mindset shifts that you can take with you heading into this holiday season. And remember, you don't have to do it all. The holidays aren't about perfection. They're more about connection, and sometimes it's connection with people that you don't want. But that connection starts with connection to yourself and your own needs. You can't connect with anyone if you're not connected to yourself. It's kind of like you can't love anyone else if you don't love yourself first. That kind of thing. Again, it sounds corny, but like seriously, take care of yourself. And I'll leave you with this. What's one thing that you can let go of this holiday season to make space for joy? What's one thing you can let go of this holiday season to make space for joy? Let me know over on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. I'm just at Alicia Crasco. But thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. Until then, hang in there, lady. You've got this. Episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Crasco. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.